Hi. Today, Ben, Maya, and I are going to address domains 1 through 3. I'm in particular going to address domain 1, which is database decision making. So it comes as no surprise that almost everything we do is based on some kind of data. So we use so many resources to determine a student's strengths and challenges, for example. We also use data to help plan our interventions and other programs that we might use to help a student, such as RTI. We use RTI, MTSS. All of those things are based on data in terms of determining what intervention we may want to use and as well as progress monitoring. We collaborate with all different people in the school environment to obtain different perspectives and expertise to determine how we might design an intervention or a program to help students. And we use data across so many different realms. We use it for student data that's academic, behavioral, social emotional, and even health and other forms of well-being to address students' needs and that will help them to access their education. And we also support our staff and teachers, not just students, but staff and teachers regarding how to use data to monitor students' progress throughout the school year and what kind of interventions might be helpful to the students. So we have a number of course assignments that helped us learn how to use data in a number of ways. So for example, in our systems consultation class, we learned how to do an FBA and I'm sorry, a needs assessment. And with the needs assessment, of course, we had to, the first thing we had to do is understand what was going on in the school. So we had to obtain data in a number of ways. Sometimes it was quantitative, other times it was qualitative based on interviews, our own observations, et cetera. So that we used quite a bit of data driven, that was a very data driven process. For behavioral strategies, of course, we developed FBAs, and FBAs are also very much data driven in terms of creating the FBA and the monitoring of progress. And we learned how to develop research studies in our research methods class. And of course, that can help to determine the effectiveness, excuse me, of different programs, interventions that we might want to implement in our schools. And we also learned how to use qualitative information with our case studies. Qualitative information was really informative, as well as the different kinds of assessments that we may have used. And other data that we obtained to help understand what a student's psychopathology. And lastly, in our social emotional behavioral skills class, we used different assessments, including the mask and the BASK and the Vineland, uh, as well as clinical interviewing to help understand a student in this realm. So quickly, there are a lot of outcomes. I kind of alluded to it earlier. The outcomes were that we learned how to use the data, right? And you learn by doing. So we learned how to make decisions based on our data. We learned how to plan assessment batteries and other interventions based on data. Um, we learned how to create or obtain our own data through research methods and case presentations, and I also learned how to plan assessment batteries based on information that we obtained, such as referral concerns and um, teacher and parent concerns. And our artifacts, of course, are all the papers and the presentations. Um, and the write-ups of the different reports that we administered in order to obtain this data. Uh, pardon me.
So this is domain 2, which is consultation and collaboration. This is basically first being able to work with others at the school, whether they're parents, educators, administrators, or some other professional. And second, being able to transmit our expertise to others through the consultative process. We can go to the next slide. I think this is a domain or a skill in this domain that really benefits from experience and personal flexibility to be able to work with a wide variety of people and their specialties and their personalities. And so this domain also includes techniques we've learned, like motivational interviewing, which is, we can remember with our OARS acronym, which stands for open-ended questions, affirmations, reflective listening, and summaries. And things like OARS can help us better assist others in the school system to solve their problems more independently with consultative assistance. Um, and yeah, so some of the other, we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Some of the classes that we took to help develop competencies in this domain are systems consultation. That one is probably most heavily based in domain two. But there's also school, family, and community engagement, and then our classes which support our in-person experience, such as the fieldwork seminar and supervision and practicum class. I've listed those classes primarily because you can't collaborate independently, and these are the classes that supported our in-person experience where we're really gaining that experience to work with others and collaborate and consult. We can go to the next slide. So some assignments or artifacts that might be useful for our portfolio in this domain include the needs assessment paper or presentation, our crisis response plan, and our academic intervention case studies, which incorporate a lot of information that we had to gather from a wide variety of sources to, best capture and meet the needs of a specific student that we chose and worked with. And if we just want to brush up on our learnings or our knowledge in this area, we can refer to our peers' consultation model presentations to really, look through the different approaches we can take to that skill. Okay, that's all I have. Your mic, yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I was tasked with Domain 3 academic interventions and instructional supports. And this domain basically has to do with the use of assessments to determine and develop and support instructional strategies, the design of interventions for students, thoughtful collaboration with stakeholders, the implementation of data-based interventions at all three tiers, 1, 2, and 3, and the review of available data to support the implementation and do sound intervention strategies and techniques. Next slide. So some courses and outcomes. In the learning and development and cognition class, we considered a range of theoretical perspectives having to do with intelligence and cognitive development and the individual student's capacity for learning. In systems consultation, we reviewed organizational practices in the school setting and developed and implemented data-driven strategies and systems to support them. In the instructional strategies class, we considered barriers that students may face to achievement and theories of consultation to best address them. Next slide. Some of our artifacts in learning development and cognition, we completed a curriculum-based assessment presentation where we considered various forms of curriculum and how they support students' learning. We considered in the system consultation class, we took an academic case study or completed an academic case study presentation where we considered the systems at the school site, how they were effective, where they needed support, and what ways we could work as school psychologists to best achieve those supports. In the instructional strategies course, we had an academic intervention case study student where we charted their progress in the interventions that we chose based on the data over the course of the semester. Next slide. In addition to the how to say, our praxis exam study materials included the book on the next slide, It is the school psychologist's guide for the practice exam. We thought this particular resource was effective because it was written by school psychologists. It is updated to reflect the NAF student goals. There are over 300 practice questions. It is the 4th edition, and it does address social justice issues for diverse student populations. And that is our presentation. Thank y'all.